My 2014 Epiphone Hummingbird Pro is a great favourite of mine. It is played so much, in fact, that the iconic Gibson Hummingbird motif is now indistinguishable, which is a shame, because this is part of the guitar's character. Thus, I decided to purchase a replacement pickguard, which turned out to be easier said than done, because it seems that neither Gibson or Epiphone will supply such. There appear to be copies available online, but most look cheap and nasty, to be honest, whilst the cost of sourcing a genuine pickguard here in the UK is astronomical, if, indeed, one can even locate said item. So, after much deliberation, I managed to come up with a solution at a fraction of the cost, with this notion being to simply have a go at refurbishing the pickguard myself. So off we jolly well go. The only materials you shall need for the job will be a sheet of A4 tracing paper, 3 acrylic paint pens, these being gold, white and black. The black one I bought to do the pickguard base, so that's the background, which I didn't need in the end. And finally, an A4 sheet of self-adhesive clear pickguard material, which is available from any good luthier supplier. And as well as the 3 materials you need, you shall only need 3 tools, these being a marker pen, a pair of scissors, and a craft knife. So having matched the shades as best I could, I set to work. As the Hummingbird design had more or less completely disappeared, I need to find a copy online in order to copy that design back onto the pickguard, but that proved to be more difficult as well. Thus I was thankful, of course, that I had taken a decent shot when my Hummingbird was in all of her glory. The next stage is to set up my laptop in front of me, so that I can actually copy an image that I took before the pickguard wore out, so I have some idea at least of what I'm doing. Then I shall enlarge it, like so. With that done, and now that I can see it, I shall brush off any debris and dust that may be on the guitar body, give it a wipe off to make sure there are no greasy fingerprints, being as paint won't stick to it. Then, give the pens a shake and let's get cracking. As you can see, I am redrawing and repainting this design freehand, as shaky as that may be, so it is highly unlikely that it will be 100% accurate. In fact, it's more than that, it's extremely likely that it's not even going to be 1% accurate. And if you do make a mistake, don't be afraid to erase your error and redo it, or even start again, because the best time to do so is when the paint is still wet. The paint also dries very quickly, by the way. So as the old adage goes about watching paint dry, whilst we are doing so, I'm going to tell you a little story about hummingbirds. So if you're sitting comfortably, I shall begin. A few summers ago I was visiting Michigan in USA. Not for the first time, I'd been there about 3 years in a row. However, for the very first time, I did see a hummingbird, finally. This wondrous first sighting occurred when I was visiting a lady's house, who was a friend of a very good friend, on his recommendation, in fact, that I go and have my neck put back into place, as 2 vertebrae at least were out of place, or had been displaced, when a rather heavy person had fallen on me in a drunken stupor at a party. It was something like akin to a staircase thereafter. Anyway, once Jenny had done the necessary work on my neck, I nipped outside for a smoke, as I did in those days. Whilst doing so, this tiny little hummingbird flew to a potted plant just a few yards away from where I was standing. Being over the moon to see such a spectacle, I watched this little bird for a few seconds, and then it did a 90-degree turn from the pot plant towards me and hovered probably a distance of 2 feet from my head, looking me directly into my eyes, its little beady eyes. What a sight to behold! I was completely mesmerised. I felt empowered by this happening, I can tell you. Yet this wasn't to be the first time such an event happened to me either. For it turned out that the following year, in the summer, I was visiting my friends Dale and Denise, staying with them when they held a party. We were talking in the backyard, myself, Dale, and another fellow, I can't remember who it was exactly, and we're having this conversation. I saw a hummingbird fly over, and it turned, flew back, and it hovered again, a little bit higher this time, but it was looking at me, its little beady eyes. Not at Dale or the other fellow, they didn't even see it. Fantastic experience. Then it turned and flew away, just like that, just like the other one did as well. I have since found out, through my partner Angie, that one of my spiritual guides, or maybe my only spiritual guide, according to the Native American medicine wheel or sacred hoop, is a hummingbird. So there you go. Maybe that's reasoning behind why I bought myself a hummingbird guitar as well. Who knows? So there it is. In no time at all, I had resurrected my old pickguard again. And I did say it wasn't going to be an accurate copy, which it isn't, but it's good enough for me. Next, I grabbed some sheets of A4 tracing paper and made a template of the pickguard, which I drew around and cut out, like so. I then placed this on the clear plastic sheet and stuck it down with blue tack so that it didn't slip, as I drew an outline around it with a black marker pen. Then, using a craft knife, I very carefully scored around the outline and cut it out with a pair of scissors. I was very economical drawing out my template so I could get 2 templates out of the sheet for future use or even for another guitar. Good job I did, because I then discovered I had made a mistake. You see, in thinking there was a protective sheet on one side, I then realised there was actually a protective sheet on both sides, and I had, needless to say, drawn it back to front the wrong way round. This wasn't insurmountable, however, so all was not lost, because fortunately I had enough material left to make another pickguard, albeit in 2 pieces due to the shape. With the main section made, I then placed it in position and marked with a marker where I needed to trim just to make sure it was an almost perfect fit. Having carefully trimmed that with my scissors, we were back in business, ready to fit the new cover to the guitar. Placing the new self-adhesive cover over the original pickguard, I worked backwards, peeling back the paper from the lowest point, the bottom right-hand corner, pressing down firmly with my fingers and smoothing it out as I moved slowly backwards, and very carefully, by the way, in the hope of ensuring I was ridding the underside of any air bubbles that may exist, whilst I was also keeping my fingers crossed that there wouldn't be a chemical reaction caused by the self-adhesive glue and the acrylic paint. I was also being extremely lazy and not removing the strings, but unfortunately I discovered I needed to, which only takes minutes to do so, I hasten to add. This of course made it much easier for me to operate, because it turned out a bit of a disaster had arisen and a piece of the backing cellophane had actually remained and tore away and was actually stuck down with the new pickguard cover. So very gingerly I teased at the offending piece of cellophane with the sharp-edged blade of my craft knife, and thankfully, big sigh of relief, it came away. In one piece too. Thus I continued to smooth out the overlay, but I wasn't happy with my result. I needed to lift it with the craft knife blade again so as not to leave any fingerprints on the underside which would show up on the front, and I stuck a piece of cellophane to the backy piece as I did so that no fingerprints would be left there. Then it was time to add the missing piece. Look, you can hardly see the join, so long as you're squinting your eyes and blindfolded in the dark with your eyes shut. Anyway, we're nearly home and about, so peel back the backing cellophane, or the fronting cellophane, whatever you want to call it, buff it up with a cloth, and Bob's your Uncle Fanny's your Aunt Sally. Well, I'm pretty pleased with the overall result. You live and learn from your experiences, but only time will tell how durable it shall be, in which case I may have to come back with another video and let you know the result. In the meantime, folks, please take care of yourselves, and please do like and subscribe if you would be so kind. Thank you very much for watching.